The hard truth is that it took years to create our current economic problems, and it'll take more time than any of us would like to repair the damage.
And with that, recovery summer is ending with a thud.
The hurricane's hitting the coast and they're battening down the hatches at the White House. Top Line starts right now.
Hello and welcome to ABC News Washington Post Top Line. I'm Rick Klein.
And I'm Devin Dwyer.
Every day at noon Eastern, right here bringing you the latest in politics, everything you need to know before you head out the door to lunch. It's twitter.com/Rick Klein to know even more all day long. I am back in Washington today, and Devin, start us off. Economic news all around.
Right, big economic news today. Recovery fall is our first top line. Big unemployment numbers out today. Unemployment ticked up 0.1% in August. Small gains in the private sector, but the third straight month of job losses for this administration, Rick, doesn't look good for the White House and Democrats going into November.
That's right. With a hat tip to our good friend Kevin Madden, maybe we'll see recovery fall instead of recovery summer. The administration trying to put a good spin on this as much as possible. Take a look at the headline on the USA Today op-ed from the Labor Secretary, Hilda Solis. She's asking the question, what can we do next? And she's saying essentially that the jobs are out there. You just have to be looking for them. It's not exactly the message I think you want from the White House right now as they try to get the economy back on track. Next up today, Wyden defects. Senator Ron Wyden of Oregon is asking his state to reject major portions of Obama's health care law. This is significant because Ron Wyden is one of the leading lights and the leading minds in the Democratic Party on the issue of health care. For him to say we shouldn't participate in some major portions of this law, including the individual mandate, the universal individual mandate, is a major, major blow to Democrats even before this law goes into effect fully.
That's right. And this is coming from someone who supported the individual mandate early on, championed it. And Democrats are clearly afraid to talk about this. Voters earlier this week, you saw on the Kaiser poll, 43% see this unfavorably. Not a good thing. Okay, next up, Professor McChrystal. We just can't make this stuff up, but General Stanley McChrystal has posted his course syllabus at Yale online, and among some of the titles that we would love to be in the classroom for, Coping with Failure, one of the lectures, Communicating the Story in the Media Environment, and the Personal Impact of Responsibility, Notoriety, and Other Realities in Being a Leader. Rick, I would love to be in that classroom.
I think it's fair to say he's an expert on all of these subjects. And finally, this morning, Hillary 2012. Check out this ad. It's actually running on television, although it's a very small buy, and it's just put up by one lawyer who has some pretty significant views on who should be the next president of the United States. Take a look at this. Now only $5,000 behind this, but we're giving it a good run for its money, and we love to talk about this kind of speculation.
And that was on the air.
On the real air. We promise we can't make this stuff up, as we say. Well, we're joined today from New Hampshire, where there is a red-hot Senate primary race going on right now. Ovide Lamontagne joins us now. He is in Berlin, New Hampshire, a part of the country we love to visit, even when it's not on the presidential election cycle. And I want to start, Mr. Lamontagne, thank you for being here, with the way this race is shaping up. We have seen the Republican establishment, Tom Coburn, the latest to join on board, behind Sarah Palin also on board, against one of your opponents, Kelly Ayotte. Is this significant? What does this mean? What is this going to mean to New Hampshire primary voters?
Well, first of all, New Hampshire primary voters are notoriously independent. They don't want to be told by Washington party bosses or big money people who they vote for. They want to vote for the authentic, true conservative in this race, and they're coming home to realize that I am that person with union leaders' endorsement in my back. The momentum is with us at the grassroots, and I think we're going to send a message on September 14th that it's about people and principles, not about party bosses or big money that decides elections in New Hampshire.
Mr. Lamontagne, why would Kelly Ayotte and or Mr. Binney, why would they be bad for New Hampshire and America? Okay, it appears.
Well, you'd have to ask them that question. I just know that in the heels of the 2008 election cycle, people were deciding who are actually going to be the viable candidates in 2010, and a lot has happened over the last year and a half to set that cries out for conservative leadership, true conservative leadership. We've seen that the party bosses have been wrong all the way across our country. Involved a lot of times they've lost because the people have rejected.
We're
saying
going.
it's got to be completely different, the candidates we nominate.
Okay, we're having a little technical difficulties, but I think we got most of that answer. We appreciate you sticking with us here. I want to ask you about one issue that has popped up very recently in your campaign. We've seen Bill Binney and Kelly Ayotte both say that they think that English should be the official language of the country. The immigration, this hot issue. Do you agree with that sentiment?
Well, English should be the national language. We need to have a common language to speak. And even though I've got a long history as a French-Canadian immigrant, 4 generations of French-Canadian immigrants who've been natives here now in New Hampshire, we've kept our culture alive, but we still speak English. We've become Americanized. We need that. We need that common bond on both language and belief in freedom and liberty in order to keep this country moving in the right direction and continue to realize freedom and liberty for generations to come.
And Mr. Lamontagne, let me shift also to big news today, the jobs report you saw out today. You've been critical of the stimulus plan and this administration's policies, and you've really pushed in your platform for more tax cuts. And I wanted to ask you, why are tax cuts going to work now when we've had these Bush tax cuts in place, and there are so many concerns, particularly in your party, about the deficit?
Well, first of all, the tax cuts we know historically, JFK sponsored tax cuts and supported them, Ronald Reagan. When you impose tax cuts, you generate some real economic activity, and it actually becomes a revenue generator. What we need to do is free up capital. I support eliminating the capital gains tax, allowing the capital that's pent up right now to be reinserted into the marketplace so we can get the kind of activity going at the private sector level to build jobs, to create jobs. And right now people aren't hiring because here in New Hampshire and across the country, there's so much uncertainty in the market. We don't know what Obamacare really is going to mean for people. The financial industry overhaul is choking the lifeline of small business, which is small business credit. And we've got to get back onto a pro-growth, free market strategy, not a government bailout, buyout, and stimulus payment strategy, which is only actually obfuscating the real need for structural reform in the economy.
You mentioned credit to small business. President Obama wants to pass in the Senate the small business bill that would be $30 billion, essentially a stimulus for small businesses, money that would go to boost lending to those initiatives. Is this something you support? Do you think the Senate should do that right now?
Well, I think, first of all, it has to be paid for. We need a pay-as-you-go strategy.
With all tax cuts?
That's been the Republican position.
With all
we can't continue to mount deficits and debt. And frankly, although that's the intention is probably a good one, the design of this particular legislation isn't going to work. And what we need to do is have old-fashioned capital available through mutual banks, savings banks, community banking. And that's been under siege by this financial overhaul bill, which is going to choke and kill small banking throughout the United States. And I hear that from small bankers up here in New Hampshire. Let them lend, give them the ability to do it, and give them the ability to actually help to kickstart our economy now.
Just to clarify on that point, do you think all tax cuts need to be paid for, need to be offset by finding spending cuts to pay for them?
Yeah, I think we need to have a pay-go strategy, which means if you're going to start spending new money for some purpose, find where you're going to cut the spending on the budget now to pay that, to offset that. We've got to go back to that kind of a strategy because we can't sustain this deficit spending, and we certainly can't sustain the mounting debt that our children and grandchildren will never be able to pay for.
All right, Ovide Lamontagne, a Republican candidate for Senate in New Hampshire. We very much appreciate you being with us via Skype from Berlin, New Hampshire. We love it. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks much. Ovide2010.com is our website if any viewers want to check us out.
Shout outs all around. We love that.
Right.
Thanks so much.